Alrighty, I would say it's okay to go ahead and move forward here. I want to start off by saying I am recording this, so anyone who would like a copy will be providing a link to this recording after the presentation is over with. Plus, for those who were not able to attend today, we'll be sending that link out to them as well. Thank you all for attending. We're extremely excited to give a showcase on PODS for you today. The turnout was better than we expected, actually. So thank you all for jumping on in. As you probably already noticed as well, we have muted the webinar. So while during this presentation, we're going to have this muted just so I can go through the process of showing PODS off to everyone. And once we get near the end of this presentation, we'll have a brief Q&A session with our experts here. So we'll have Emerson and Stephanie, who are our PODS experts, that will be able to assist in answering any questions that you may think up during the presentation. I would highly recommend that you post in the chat your questions that you may have. That way we can review those as we're moving forward, and Stephanie and Emerson will be able to jump on the ball near the end of the presentation. A little bit about me. My name is Josh Rosales. I'm the host for this webinar on PODS today. A little bit about myself. I work in business development for ACD Direct, as well as manage the telephony portion of ACD Direct. So I'm either at the front of the house or the back of the house, behind the scenes. But either way, I'm working with our clients in some form or fashion. So if you haven't spoken with me before, most likely you will in the future. As you also probably noticed, my last name is relative to Noah's. I am related to Noah, our CEO. I will say, however, since we were kids, he's let me know that I was adopted. So the jury's still out on that one. But without further ado, let's dive into PODS here. So what exactly is PODS? The bottom line is PODS is a database for your premiums that allows you to select, organize, modify, and export that data all from one place. So we go out and do the legwork for you and provide you with a nice tool that you can dive into and manage all of your premium data from one location. Right off the bat, during your registration process for this webinar today, we asked a question that we feel is really vital into understanding our clients and how PODS can help. And that question was, how many hours does your organization spend gathering information for each pledge drive? We had a guesstimated time frame of what we felt that was, but based on the people who registered today, that average number is just a little over 25 hours. And so that's a good chunk of time that you're taking out of your day that you could be utilized elsewhere. And what we hope that PODS brings to the table that you'll see through this webinar is that that's going to decrease drastically. I'm going to go ahead and dive into PODS. All right. As we're loading into PODS here, you'll notice that my PODS library is the first one highlighted. This is the entire listing of all the different premium information that is out there and available to you as a client. You can manage any number of pledge drives at the same time. You can even create your own TOOPs. Each drive that you set up within PODS is separated and organized in its own individual environment. So that way you're keeping that data separate. we go out, and just like I said earlier, we go out and collect all this information from all the different major distributors out there. So again, you don't have to. And as many of you are well aware, the time involved to gather that information is as you stated earlier, pretty time consuming. There's a lot of different avenues that you have to go through to gather this information. PODS does that for you. And yeah, Jen, just like she mentioned in chat, who says we can't buy time? That's exactly what PODS is attempting to do for you. Not only are we gathering this information, we're also gathering the short descriptions, the long descriptions, the images. So we have a whole database of the images that we're storing on our servers for you that can be utilized how you see fit. Of course, if you are integrated with Simple Pledge and PledgeCart, which is our online donation form, PODS is integrated with both. So that way it's carrying this information over into Simple Pledge, our pledge donation software, and PledgeCart, our online web donation software. So that way, if you're a member of those two camps, you're getting this information all from PODS, and it's spreading across to those other two regions of within our organization. You have the ability for multiple user accounts that have their own security settings. So that way, if you have a team of people that are managing your premium data, they can all each have their own individual login accounts. And if one is, utilized someplace else for the day, everyone still has access to those particular pods. So I'm here in the pods library. Again, this is the entire listing of all the different premiums that we've gone out and gathered. Won't you be my neighbor? Here's a great one. I can dive into Won't You Be My Neighbor, and I can see specific information on the different premiums. I can dive into each premium, see the long description that's provided here for me, see the image file name that's associated, the item number. I can also make notes. I can add notes to this particular premium. All this information is stored in the database. And then I can go ahead and tweak this information and maybe assign a gift code or a suggested amount, change that. This is all provided for you here right off the bat. It's also letting me know when this particular premium was last modified. So a lot of great info that is being provided here just at first glance. From the PODS library, then we have our station library. So station library is basically a drilled down version of the entire PODS library. This is maybe the premiums that are associated with just your station that you would like to kind of dwindle down that entire PODS listing or the entire library as a whole. So now I can kind of drill down and work within a smaller listing of premiums. I can also add my own local premiums to this list. So that way all my data is kind of in one place. And so that means, maybe your own tote bags or mugs or things like that, you can bring that into the PODS library. And from within the station library, I can dive in and kind of tweak some of my settings. I can assign these gift codes and have this all stored. So once all this information is implemented and associated with the particular premium, you don't have to worry about it again. You don't have to go back and worry about having to tweak this value. You can if you need to, but it's there. So that way, moving forward for drives that are coming up, all this information will be there for you at your beck and call. If you wanted to work within a particular program and add a different premium to a different program, you can simply copy the gift code, dive into another show, and then add a premium to that particular show. So let's say I wanted to flag a few of these shows for my current March drive that's coming up. So maybe I'll do Quilts of Valor. I'll go ahead and drag and drop that to my current listing. Concert for George, drag and drop that, and ADD and Loving It. I'm just grabbing some random ones here, folks. But now I've picked out particular premiums from my station library. I've moved them over to my current library. So once I dive into my current library, I can now work within these and maybe tweak or add a gift. So remember earlier, I copied the gift code from a different premium there, and I can go ahead and add it to a different show. So I can simply add gift, copy and paste that premium, hit enter, and my gift is there. So all that information just carried straight over. Again, folks, we're working within a database, and that's really the true facet of what PODS has given to you. You know, early on, I learned that if a station could provide their premium list on a notepad, they would. So, you know, the idea for PODS is kind of twofold, right? It allows the station a nice, easy, smooth way to gather their premium information, but it also benefits us. It helps provide a nice, clean export in a fashion that we need it provided to for Simple Pledge and Pledge Cart. So let's take a quick glance at that. So I'm going to go ahead and want to export some of these particular premiums for this March drive coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and flag these and save it. I'm going to export. I'm sure, so I'm just confirming. So then I move over to my next tab here, and that's export. And now you can see my particular premiums that I've selected. And then I can choose how I want this to be exported. Within PODS, you have the ability to export in a multitude of different ways. Calls Without Walls is our back-end database. This is kind of the nitty-gritty side of things of what we need to be able to make it work for Simple Pledge and Pledge Cart. Then you have your master export. So that's kind of like everything all-encompassing that you can have, so you can make sure that you're seeing line by line everything that you're doing here within PODS. And then maybe a gifts export. Maybe you need to pass this around the station to a few key people that really just want to see a simplified version of the database. And then, of course, here in this environment, I have an MSB Salesforce addition to PODS. So this allows me to, if I was an MSB station, I can export directly into Salesforce. Nice thing to note there is that, you know, that's a custom export that we created within PODS. And that's something that we work with stations in doing. And something we're working with on Allegiance side, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. But let's take a quick glance at our export here, just on these particular premiums. So we're looking at a preview of the actual Calls Without Walls export. These are kind of all the fields that we're needing to populate into Calls Without Walls. One thing to note here is on majority of these reports, we're also including that image file name. So it gives you a direct URL link to that file name. And if you needed that image for something outside of Pledge Cart or Simple Pledge, you can definitely grab that file. And you'll notice that the actual file name, which is stored in the actual station library and the actual premium in itself, has the same I guess before the actual file name, the ending of the JPEG, everything up until that point, the www calls without walls, is all the same. So it's all stored under the subdirectory of premium pictures. So that way, if you kind of leave maybe a tab open in your browser, all you have to do is edit out that the actual file name itself to be able to dive right into it. Then you have your master export. So this is going to be providing a lot more information. Obviously, what we're seeing here is the long description. So that's all gathered as well. This is great for our knowledge base, and as well as pledge cart. And then a simplified gifts export, just a little bit cleaned up, not so much info, but providing you with still that long description. And so these, basically, it took no time at all to find my premiums, associate it with my station, set it up for a current PODS listing, and then export that data out into a nice clean format. And that's the beauty of PODS. It's saving you that effort of going out and finding this information yourself. Of course, we can archive particular premiums and shows to kind of clean up our library ourselves, but you can always come back to these if need be. You can work within a multitude of different pods, so you can choose different time frames, different toops. You can go back and look at maybe last year. What did we do last year for March? We could take a quick glance at our different premium listings that we did last year for March, and that'll provide all that information there. We can clone this and copy it over and move it over to a new pod, and just the beauty of this is the simplicity in it, and the whole process. We are keeping the stations up to date with information. So, and that happens in two different ways. One is obviously logged into PODS right now. You'll notice on the top right-hand side, I have a red messages button here. I can click on that and dive into announcements. So, as I'm in here, I can look and see what the latest announcements have been and how we're kept up to date. But on top of that, we're also receiving a distribution email list that, as you're a PODS user, you're automatically added to. So you don't always have to be inside PODS to be able to gather this information. That email will be sent out to you and your team. That way we're keeping you up to date as well via email. There's a full audit log on PODS, so we can keep track of everything that you're doing from the back end side of things. We know exactly how you're moving and playing around in PODS, so that way if an issue comes up, we can dive into it and help you resolve that quickly. So back to some of our new features here, specifically with our friends with Allegiance. We work really closely with Allegiance in a lot of different avenues. You may have heard Simple Pledge Hybrid. That is something that we work really closely with Allegiance and found a way to kind of link up our dynamic pledge software to be able to talk with Allegiance. So that way the clients can still work in the back end and manage their CRM from the back end without having to worry about imports and exports and all that fun stuff from the drive perspective. Same thing exists here with PODS. Emerson and Stephanie have been working really closely with Allegiance and their team on being able to provide an export within PODS that is providing Allegiance with the way that they're set up on how that data is imported in. There's particular items that are very key to the way Allegiance operates. So one thing right off the bat is, two types of exports, the item and the premium. I'm going to log out here really quickly and log in as an Allegiance user. And it's just kind of our little test bed here. All right. So, off the bat, everything looks rather similar. But there's a few key differences here. So whenever I'm in my my station library and I kind of dive into a particular premium, a couple of items that that you'll note now is there's a show ID associated with this premium, as well as a show name. So these are the items that sort of match up with the Allegiance backend, and those are key. There are character limits in the Allegiance descriptions that are slightly different than how CWW operates. We've accommodated for that, so we've taken that into consideration. The category codes. Allegiance uses 2 category codes, and we've addressed that. And I know Emerson and Stephanie, again, have worked really closely on establishing this environment, and have been working really closely with Allegiance on making sure that we're kind of dotting all of our I's and crossing our T's. So let's go ahead and look at a really quick export here for an Allegiance user. Because I noticed when I was looking at the attendee list, we did have a handful of Allegiance clients that joined us. So, and again, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll stick with what we got here. Let's see if I have anything under current. Perfect. I can go ahead and select all, and then I'll export this. We'll come over to our export here. Then you'll notice that I have, in addition to my master export, I have 2 additional Allegiance item exports, or 2 Allegiance exports, Allegiance item export and our Allegiance premium export. So let's take a quick glance at that. Our item export, brief information here, but you'll notice the category is that 2-digit character, showing our force incentives, major distributor there. So that's the shipping vendor. And then we can bounce over to our premium export, which is providing a lot more information, and our gift codes and our gift descriptions. And those item codes there for supplying that package item information as well. So this is, working hand in hand with Allegiance and making sure that we're kind of making PODS work for everyone. It's offering a tool to the various different clients that we have out there, an easy and opportune way to gather that information, that premium info. So what exactly do you get starting out with PODS? You kind of saw the overview and the glitz and glamour of what we love about PODS. If you were to sign up today, or tomorrow, or down the road, whenever you decided to sign up, what are you getting to start out with? And this is something that talking with Emerson and Stephanie on kind of what they do in their operations with PODS is what I really love the most. So you basically, for CWW users, the calls without walls users that are working within the back end of calls without walls primarily, in different CRMs outside of Allegiance, you send us your gift list from your last drive, and we go through the process of setting that up. We offer something very similar with Allegiance clients. It's a little different, but it's a very similar process. You also, so we get all that premium information in there for you, establish all the gift codes, and kind of get you all set up. So that way you're starting at a point where it feels like you've already been using PODS for so long, right? On top of that, we do an initial ride-along process, right? So after training and kind of really going into the nitty-gritty of everything, you're also going to be working very closely with Emerson and Stephanie's team as a ride-along process to get you, you know, kind of moving along yourself. And that whole ride-along process basically helps you, you know, kind of navigate. And it's kind of like having a, you know, your buddy right there in the room with you, helping you go through it all. Because they're, you know, granted, premiums there's a lot of information there. So, and PODS, even as simplistic as we feel it is, can throw in some curveballs every once in a while. And lastly, one thing that kind of carries throughout your time with PODS is basically, you know, it kind of follows that rule of dropping something on the floor, and if you pick it up within a few seconds, it's still edible. Basically, if you think about something within PODS and it's taking you a little bit longer than 2 or 3 minutes, you know, call us. You know, if anything requires, you know, any assistance from our team, they're ready and willing to assist. And so, you know, the idea behind all that, you know, if you're struggling with a functionality of PODS, or looking to have something added to PODS, maybe some new development, definitely reach out to us and call us, and we're right there to help. But that is my presentation on PODS. What I'd like to do now is allow Emerson and Stephanie to like to unmute them, and then maybe answer some questions. I see we have a couple of questions in there, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute them. Let's see, I'm not finding.
Emerson is logged in as me as well.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh, sure can. Yep,
Right.
I can hear you both now. Perfect. Okay.
I'm Stephanie's doppelganger.
Well, great. Yeah, so if you have any particular questions that you'd like to ask in chat right now, would be a great time. I see Stephanie, it looks like, or Emerson, one of you answered a question for Caroline there.
I did.
Any other key items that I may have glanced over, or anything you'd like to discuss while we're getting some questions in?
Well, okay. Caroline, to your question, you asked about item codes. I'm going to answer that in general terms first, and then we can look at a PODS record. But what we've done is we've worked with Allegiance, right? And we have fields in those PODS gift records that will accommodate, you know, all of the information that you need to work with Allegiance. And then we have the 2 exports that they want, right? There's an item export and there's a premium export. And so the specific answer to your question, can you open one of those up, please?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, and then you according to it. Okay, if you look down, geez, you know, I'm pointing with my pointer. You can't see that. The bottom row of boxes, the last one on the right says package items, and right now it says 1, 2, 3, 4 in it. Okay, that's where you put the item codes for Allegiance.
Yep. And sorry, go ahead.
Well, and I was going to say, and again, you know, I could go through this with you. You know, I'm looking at a chart right now that says, what's it called in Allegiance? What's it called in PODS? And of course, if you were to use it, that's how we'd go through it and say, okay, this goes here, this goes there. And, you know, to keep it short, I will say that we have ways to populate both of those exports, item and premium, in exactly the way that Allegiance wants to see them.
Yep, absolutely. Any other questions regarding PODS? I think that's the only one I've seen so far. All right.
Well,
yeah, Emerson, do you want to touch base on any particular item? While we still have a couple minutes.
Oh, here's a question. I already have a login. Do I need a new one for Allegiance? Let's see, Caroline, you have a login for PODS?
She's with WVIZ, isn't she?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. So.
Yep.
Right. Geez, well, we can give her the same one, but you'd have to set up a new one for her, right? Because you got to set her up as an Allegiance user.
right. The way
Yeah.
PODS works, it will have to be set up. The account will have to be set up as an Allegiance account. So yeah, you'll have 2 logins, but one will be your old account, one will be your new one, or for Allegiance, if that makes sense.
So the answer is we can give you the same credentials, but we have to set you up as an Allegiance user so that you see all the stuff that's unique to Allegiance.
Good deal.
So
well,
just in general, does anybody have questions about the overall workflow, like how you would use this, say, to set it up? You know, for like, let's assume that you're dazzled and you want to do this in March, you know, how that would get set up, what the workflow would be? Or is that too much detail for now? Nope. Okay.
All right. Well, good. Yeah, I want to be mindful with everyone's time here. Again, greatly appreciate everyone that was able to attend today. We will be providing this URL link for the recording, but we also have information on PODS that can work as training material that can help you through kind of looking at all the different facets of PODS and everything I went over today. With that said, I think that'll end things for today. And again, greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for your time, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.